Get away to a sun-drenched beach. Dine on local seafoods. Stroll a foggy inlet. Fish one of the world's great rivers. And hear the roar of ocean breakers. Come, enjoy Washington State's Long Beach Peninsula. The Long Beach Peninsula, located in the southwest corner of Washington State, is north of the mouth of the Columbia River. Washed by the tides of Willapa Bay to the east and skirted by 28 miles of sandy beach to the west. Traveling on I-5, the Long Beach Peninsula is a 3.5-hour drive from Seattle, or 2.5 hours from Portland. Driving south from Seattle, go west at Olympia through Montesano and Raymond, at Chehalis for a pastoral drive on State Route 6, or at Longview for a leisurely trip along the Columbia River and through Nassau. Oregon and California visitors can reach the peninsula via Coastal Highway 101 and crossing the Astoria Bridge to the Washington side of the Columbia. The Long Beach Peninsula is most famous for its 28 miles of unobstructed sandy beach. It's been called the world's longest beach since turn-of-the-century vacationers arrived on the Clamshell Railroad and stayed in the guest houses and inns along the shore. But the Long Beach Peninsula is much more than the beach. Name your favorite recreational activity, and you will find it at this vacation playground. Kite flyers come from all over the Northwest to take advantage of the ocean winds. Long Beach offers hours of wonderful flying. The annual Washington State International Kite Festival welcomes thousands of kite flyers to their August competitions. Kite flying groups stage fly-ins year-round. Visitors also enjoy beach sports like horseback riding, hiking, biking, and beach walking. The relaxed pace of life on the Long Beach Peninsula offers the visitor a wide spectrum of activities. There are 2 golf courses, Surfside on the north end of the peninsula off Highway 103, and Peninsula Golf Course, just north of the town of Long Beach. Long Beach Peninsula sport fishing is some of the best in the world. Whether you fish on the Columbia River, from the jetty, at Loomis Lake, or the Nassau River, there's an exciting array of seafood waiting to be caught. Fish for steelhead or salmon in the Columbia River. Sturgeon, bottomfish, and tuna are also favorite catches. Buoy 10, the traditional line marking the end of the ocean and the beginning of the river, is the name given to fall salmon run. Clam digging is a favorite ocean beach sport. Licensed spring and fall seasons are currently announced by the state each year. Sports crabbers find excellent catches in the oceans, rivers, and along Willapa Bay. But don't take the oysters. The bay is leased to commercial operators only. When considering any sports fishing, be sure to check with the charter operators or the Long Beach Peninsula Visitors Bureau. The Washington State Department of Fisheries controls the season for each type of seafood, and licenses are required. Boaters can choose from berths at the facilities provided by the Port of Ilwaco with 800 slips, Chinook with 380, and Nakata with 100. All have transient day rates for visiting boaters. Not all the peninsula fun is in the water. Long Beach is considered a Washington State highway. Yes, driving is permitted on the wet, hard sand on the eastern edge of the beach, but not on the soft westerly edge. Look for signs that tell where and when beach driving is permitted. With all of the ocean to play in, the visitor might think that Long Beach is a good place to swim, but it is not. The heavy surf, treacherous undertows, cross currents, and cold water temperatures all make swimming at Long Beach very dangerous. Playing in the tide pools on the sandy shore or paddling in the river waves at the state park's Waikiki Beach are okay, but swimming is not recommended. The Long Beach Peninsula calendar is filled with festivals planned for the visitors. Starting in the spring, enjoy Ragtime Roadie Dixieland Jazz, the Garlic Festival, Beach 10K Run or 3-mile walk, old-fashioned 4th of July, sand sculpture sensations contest, salmon derby, $1 Million Rodeo, end of the world car show, and the Fall Cranberry Festival. This full schedule of events means there is something special happening almost every weekend on the peninsula. Pick up a free copy of the Chinook Observer's Visitor's Guide for a full schedule of events planned during your visit. Wonderful holidays filled with sports, sun, surf, and community events are not new to the peninsula. Early vacationers were drawn to the area from Portland and communities along the Columbia River. In the 1880s, the steamer General Canby crossed the Columbia with bags of mail and freight bound for the town of Olympia. When vacationers joined the load in the summer months, they were met at the Ilwaco docks by teams of horses that transported them up the beach. It was L.A. Loomis who saw the need to get the mail and the people up the peninsula in a more efficient manner. He felt that a railway up the beach from Ilwaco to Nakata on Willapa Bay was the answer. And so the Ilwaco Railroad and Navigation Company began in May 1889 with a locomotive and flat cars fitted with benches and awnings. This unique railroad didn't run by a schedule, but by the tide table. The steamship T.J. Potter brought vacationers to the Ilwaco dock only after the tide was at mid-flood. This meant the railroad, which met the steamer, ran on the tide table. The new line was quickly dubbed the Clamshell Railroad. It was a most informal train. In addition to its lax schedule, train conductors were known to have stopped the train to shoot birds and catch fish for dinner. Families would move to their Victorian summer homes each year, leaving Dad to commute on weekends. The Friday run was known as the Papa Train. About 1900, the line was expanded up the river to Megler to avoid the high tide only schedule. The end of World War I and the increased popularity of the automobile spelled the end of the line for the railroad in September 1930. The Washington State Highway Department bought the old right-of-way, and Highway 103 was built over the old rail bed. Like many other areas of Washington State, the Columbia River was discovered by Robert Gray. In 1792, Gray went beyond the sandbars and mist which had masked the 10-mile-wide mouth of the river from discovery by other explorers. He named the river for his ship. The next chapter of area history was written in 1804, when President Thomas Jefferson sent Meriwether Lewis, William Clark, and Northwest Discovery volunteers to explore the West. The journey ended along the Columbia River at Cape Disappointment. Lewis and Clark succeeded with this massive expedition because of the team they put together to chart and name locations along the route. The team included a Shoshone Indian interpreter, Sacagawea, and her French-Canadian trapper husband. The Lewis and Clark Interpretive Center uses drawings, multimedia presentations, and displays to reconstruct the 2-year, 8,000-mile journey from Hood River, Illinois, to the Louisiana Purchase to the Pacific Ocean. The center, located on the cliffs above the river's mouth, also tells the story of this stretch of ocean known by early mariners as the Graveyard of the Pacific. The historic Cape Disappointment Lighthouse is visible from the Interpretive Center's massive picture windows. The major navigational aid on the Washington side of the river, the lighthouse was built in 1856. Its light and 1,600-pound fog bell guided ships across the treacherous Columbia River bar for generations. The lighthouse is still maintained by the United States Coast Guard with electronic and visual aids for modern shipping. Up the coast is North Head Lighthouse. Added in 1899 to guide ships coming from the north, this structure is said to be the most photographed lighthouse on the North Coast. In the 1860s, the strategic location of the headlands brought the site to the attention of the military as possible fort locations. Fort Canby and later Fort Columbia were established at the mouth of the Columbia River. Together with Fort Stevens on the Oregon side, these artillery fortifications served as units of coastal defense in World War I and II. The Fort Columbia garrison, home to as many as 500 men, now houses displays of military life, Northwest exploration, and Chinook Indian history. While visiting the fort, plan a stop in the town of Chinook. From its beginning, Chinook has had an economy based on fish. Indians caught and traded their catches to inland tribes. Later, pioneer fish traps made owners rich. Now a boat basin, the Chinook Packing Company and Sea Resource Fisheries Program are the economic base of the town. The state's oldest salmon hatchery was established in 1885 at Chinook. A group of fishermen realized the need to replenish the catch and began developing ways to plant fish in the river. Today, Sea Resources, located on the Chinook River, continues the idea with the operation of the salmon hatchery for catching, spawning, rearing and releasing fish. A unique high school training program in marine careers is based here. Visitors are welcome at Sea Resources to learn more about the Columbia River salmon. In Chinook, the former Methodist Episcopal Church has been converted by Joanne and Gino Leach to the Sanctuary, a gourmet restaurant specializing in seafoods from local waters. Driving west along the river, Ilwaco is next. After the town was platted in 1852, it grew around the fishing industry. Today's collection of fish-related businesses like charter operations and Jesse's Ilwaco Fish Processing Plant echo the days of horse-drawn seines on Sand Island. Rows of fish traps filling Baker Bay, and canneries overflowing with salmon catches. Charter operators line the port of Ilwaco with boats ready to sail out on the Columbia in search of seasonal catches of salmon, sturgeon, and bottom fish like Pacific cod, pollock, and lingcod. Visit the Ilwaco docks in the afternoon to see the catch of the day, including Dungeness crab. The town of Ilwaco has a colorful history which has been preserved at the Ilwaco Heritage Museum. Step back in time at the pioneer village with this nostalgic look at the post office, school, church, and home life of the era. Origins of the peninsula's fishing, logging, farming, and cranberry industries are recalled in the development room. And the Native American room shows the uses of local vegetation and animals in providing the necessities of life. The museum brings the history of the clamshell railway to life in the old baggage depot building, which houses the N-gauge model of the railroad. Another historic site is the former Presbyterian Church, built in 1920, now the Inn at Ilwaco Bed and Breakfast Hotel. The old sanctuary is used as a playhouse. The Long Beach Performing Arts Center plays host each summer to touring theater companies. A schedule of the season is available at the Long Beach Peninsula Visitors Bureau. In addition to restaurants, shops, and accommodations, be sure to see the fine historic murals painted on walls of various Ilwaco businesses. Perhaps the most realistic is the 1920s view of downtown Ilwaco, painted on the DuPay Brothers hardware wall. While touring the peninsula, watch for the Centennial murals. There are more than a dozen painted by different nationally commissioned artists. North on Highway 103 is Seaview, the location of many fine Victorian summer homes built by Portland residents. Stroll around the streets to see excellent examples of these homes which have been restored. Look for homes like the 1888 Shooterman Collie House and the 1898 Sandcastle. Next door is the Shelburne Inn, serving vacationers continuously for more than 90 years. Once a stop on the railroad line, the inn was pulled across the street by a team of horses in 1911 to create a larger inn. Modern comforts, Victorian decor, and a restaurant are featured at this historic inn.
I like this boat better.
One of the artist-operated galleries on the peninsula is at Seaview. Watercolorist Charles Mulvey captures Southwest Washington coastal scenes in his unique style. The hub of the peninsula is the town of Long Beach. The main street of Long Beach has it all, plus motels, resorts, trailer parks, and inns. Look for eateries from the casual to deli bakeries and family restaurants. Pocket parks dot the town and display unique wood-carved artifacts like the world's largest razor clam. Browse the galleries, bookstores, and specialty shops on Main Street. But perhaps the most unusual shopping experience is waiting at Marsh's Museum, a Long Beach tradition. The murals in Long Beach include a 1920s cranberry harvest, and the Long Beach Hotel scene, which may even fool a young visitor into joining the group. Don't let all this activity keep you off the beach. Whether it's summer or winter, the 28 continuous miles of beach is a wonderful place to walk, run, or ride. Bring the children and build a sandcastle. Pack a picnic lunch and choose your spot. Chase tide pools. It's great to see the Pacific Ocean at any age. At the midsection of the peninsula is Ocean Park. Its roots go back to the Bible camp of the Portland Methodist Episcopal Church. Markets, restaurants, shops, and motels have grown up here to serve the northern peninsula communities. One of Ocean Park's murals is a 20s scene from the town's Main Street. Look for this mural over the entrance to Ole's Nook. Traveling east, the highway continues to follow the clamshell railway roadbed to the end of the line at Nakata. The only port on Willapa Bay, Nakata is home to the active oyster industry. The largest and cleanest West Coast estuary, the bay yields half the entire Washington State production of oysters. The Weigert brothers have operated an oyster business here for 3 generations. Grandfather Weigert started in 1874 with native oysters which were harvested and shipped to San Francisco during the gold rush. In the 1920s, hardy Pacific oysters were imported from Japan to revive the oyster industry. Now visitors to the company will see seeds ready for planting, barges of oysters being graded and sacked, or shucked for the fresh market. The oysters continue to be an economic force on Willapa Bay after more than 100 years of quality production. The picturesque town of Nakata attracts gourmets from around the country to the award-winning Ark restaurant. Chefs Nancy Main and Jamela Lucas gather the freshest Northwest seafoods, meats, and produce to create a cuisine that is known throughout the West. Up the bay is the National Historic District of Oysterville. Platted in 1855 by I.A. Clark and R.H. Espy, men who saw the potential to establish a town at the oyster beds. The industry grew as ships arrived from California to pick up the oysters. Grand homes were built, some using the redwood ballast from the northbound ships. Oysterville was a boom town with 500 residents, 2 hotels, 7 saloons, and a Pacific County seat. The depletion of the oyster beds and severe storms brought an end to the boom. To add to the problem, South Bend across the bay was growing fast, fueled by railroad and lumber interests. With water the principal access to the county courthouse, South Bend launched a campaign to bring the county seat across the bay. An election was held, but contested by Oysterville. A group of South Bend residents decided to take action and made a midnight assault on the county seat. Arriving by boat, they gathered up all the county records from Oysterville and sailed back to South Bend. This has been the Pacific County seat since 1893. The railroad terminus in Nakata plus the loss of the courthouse spelled doom for Oysterville. By 1900, it was a quiet farming community. Several Victorian-era homes have been preserved along with a school and church. Pick up a map for a walking tour of Oysterville. Just half a mile west is the peninsula's newest community, Surfside. Homes are built among the dunes facing the ocean. Condominiums, shops, a motel, restaurant, and golf course make up the Surfside development. The northern tip of the Long Beach Peninsula is preserved as a wildlife refuge for birds, such as the snowy plover, black brant, sea goose, and shorebirds like sandpipers. The area is also home to a Washington State park with ocean and bayside walking trails where plants and birds like the great blue heron can be observed. Many people only think of the beach for a summer holiday, but the coast and headlands can be exhilarating in a winter storm. Inns, motels, resorts, and trailer parks offer reduced rates for a winter getaway. The Long Beach Peninsula plans fall and winter events like the October Cranberry Festival. A highlight is a visit to a cranberry bog to watch the flooding harvest techniques of this historically important Long Beach crop. All the elements of a wonderful vacation are waiting. So bring the whole family for a relaxing time at the Pacific Ocean. Enjoy. Washington State's Long Beach Peninsula.